What was your experience like with Jodi Hildebrandt?
Pretty negative, to say the least. She was not a very good counselor, not at all. So
Take me through it. I know you detailed it in a video on YouTube. You put two videos up pertaining to Jodi, one of which titled Jodi Hildebrandt was my therapist. This was my experience. How would you describe that experience? What you saw Jodi for, how things played out? Take me through it.
yeah, so I saw Jodi Hildebrandt with my ex-wife. We were married at the time, and it was couples counseling was the purpose of the meetings with Jodi. We ended up going to our church bishop. The church bishop recommended Jodi, and we went and we saw Jodi. And the first interaction I had with Jodi was over the phone. We had a basically I said, "Hey, is this Jodi?" She said, "Yeah." "Is this Bryce?" And then we had our conversation. The first thing that she wanted to ask about is before we even started talking about anything, she just goes, "Have you ever watched pornography?" I was like, that is a very strange way to open a conversation. So she was pretty obsessive about sexuality. It's kind of strange. Um, so we ended up, despite that weird interaction, we ended up doing our first couples counseling session, and we did it together. So in our initial meeting, it was kind of a standard couples counseling session where you introduce yourself and what your problems are and what you want to work on. Jodi had us both in the same room together. I noticed very quickly that she was not really there to listen to what I had to say. She was a little more interested in what my wife had to say, but she still had her own agenda, it felt like from the beginning. Um, After that first initial session, which I don't remember too much about, unfortunately, we were told that we could do two different sessions and then we would do the men's and the women's group that Jodi does. And so we did our first session separately. And in that session, I don't remember too much. I just remember being very uncomfortable with what Jodi was bringing up, and she was very accusatory about me and my role in the marriage. And so I thought, okay, well, I thought it was very, I knew she was a bad counselor from the first session, but the second session was where I was really like, not only do I think she's a bad counselor, I think there's something really twisted about her thought process.
Did you see all the coverage and it kind of got everything swirling for you? Like, when did you start to put pieces together that the individual maybe you have seen, whether it be on YouTube videos or on the news or on Facebook or wherever you get your local scoop? When did you put two together that it was the same woman that you saw for your counseling?
I didn't really take interest in the Ruby Frankie case, and then I found out it was in Utah, and I thought that was quite interesting, but I kind of didn't want to attach myself to it because it enrages me. And then my mom gives me a text, and she said, I'm at work. She gives me a text, and she says, "Hey, was Jodi Hildebrandt your counselor?" I said, yes. And then she asked me to call her. I call her, and she says, or I'm like, "What's up?" And she goes, "Jodi's going to jail." And I was like, honestly, my first reaction, which is very strange, it wasn't exactly like why. It was more of like, yes, like she got caught for some stupid crap she did. Cause I knew that she was probably doing something illegal. It's just a feeling, it's not, I don't want to say that I know, but I just felt like she was corrupt.
What point did you see her? Because this was in the last couple of years, right?
It was 2020. So we got married in April of 2021. And the first couple months didn't go very smoothly. And that's when we went to go see Jodi. I would say my estimation would be October. I could pull it up on my phone. I have a text from her, but
Where did you go see her?
it was not in person sessions. So Jodi, I think one of the biggest ways that she makes her money is by having a lot of people be able to do really quick Zoom sessions. And so we did it on Zoom or something of the like through her connections company. So it was all online. I never saw her in person, thank goodness.
Do you blame her for your marriage ending?
No, I don't. However, I will not absolve her of guilt for making the marriage go a little less smoothly. Um Jodi wasn't able to take our marriage and destroy it. She wasn't the reason we were initially in marriage counseling anyway. Um but the methods that she uses are very, very easy. Like, if you can get people to do what she wanted us to do, divide and conquer, she wanted to separate us in our sessions, separate us in our groups. Yes, she very easily could have been one of the reasons our marriage ended had we not seen through it. My wife saw through it a little less quickly than I did. And because she said that Jodi kind of gave her like this feeling of hope. And so that's what Jodi did for my wife, is she gave her this false sense of hope that she could be helped by Jodi, and that Jodi had all the answers, um and that was something that really bothered me, because the reason I kept going to see Jodi longer than I would have is because my ex-wife, she was given that hope by Jodi. And from what I've seen with like the situation with Kevin and the situation with other men that have come forward, them being divided from their families and Jodi stepping in between the marriage as opposed to guiding the marriage so that they can be together, she is very, very manipulative. And what she was doing would never be cohesive. Like, it was never to put us closer together. It was to further us apart. So do I blame Jodi for ending my marriage? Thank goodness, no. But I blame her for everything she did to try. And I know she would have tried a little bit harder, because I was not on board with her distortion, all of her craziness. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was her, was when I had overheard, because everything was digital, everything was on Zoom. My ex-wife was on these sessions, and my mom and myself, we could kind of overhear the sessions, just because, we're all in the same house. And it sounded to me more like a cyber bully group to bully the individuals in the group than it was a therapeutic conversation about supporting each other and making marriages work. All these women were very bitter. They were very angry at their husbands. Jodi was the ringleader of a bunch of very hateful conversation. And so I knew it upsets me, because I know that she has affected a lot of marriages, and they've come to an end because of her. I can guarantee that much.
How many times would you say you saw her for therapy over how many months?
For me, it was quick. For my wife, it was probably only a month. So because we had to pay for a lot of sessions, it was very expensive. We went to, I went to one, I went to 3 sessions, and then I was sick of it after the third session. So I went to the group couples counseling where we were together. I went to my individual session, and I went to one men's group. And then after the men's group, I realized that I didn't want to be a part of it anymore, and I thought it was weird.
Just a quick thing about your bishop at the time referring you to
Yes.
Jodi. Was
Mhm.
there an option to see other people, or was it just Jodi was the only one that was referred?
No, I think that's the misconception that a lot of people are having about this, because I am a church member, and um in my YouTube comment section, most people are just telling me I'm part of a cult, and that you can't blindly believe everything, as if they don't understand that I'm a little more skeptical than they may think. But my bishop recommended Jodi, but he never put that down our throats. I could have told him no. I never read reviews, right? I trusted my bishop, so obviously he made a bad judgment call. I'm not gonna speak to why he made that judgment call, because I don't know. I need to talk to him still. However, what I can say is that there was never a force in that direction. He just said, "Hey, you might want to look into Jodi Hildebrandt," and I said, "Sure, let's go to Jodi Hildebrandt." And then when we came back to him and said that we had no interest in seeing Jodi Hildebrandt anymore, after my wife had decided she was done with Jodi too, he referred us to a different therapist that we actually did get some help from, and much, much better person. So I don't know what the experience with other people and their bishops were, but my bishop was exactly who he's always been, and he didn't force us one way or the other. I should have done my due diligence, and I didn't.
Why did you ultimately want to come forward and kind of just share your experience about this very public sort of situation as it unfolds now in the court process with these allegations?
There are numerous reasons. The first one is I'm selfish and I wanted to see how much social media attention I could get for my YouTube channel because I feel like it would jump on the bandwagon. So go subscribe. But another thing would be I was very upset that so many people, because I didn't know when I left my terrible review for her a long time ago, I was hoping that would stop some people from going to see her because the reason is because I hope that if she ever gets out of prison, that she would have a tainted reputation, and I would like to be a part of tainting it because, you know, I mean, I know that sounds malicious, but I don't want her to go back into the general public and do the same thing ever again. And I just wanted to shed light on it because I felt that I had a unique platform to do so at the time. So I came out because I wanted to make sure that people knew that this is not in the courts. I mean, I don't know what evidence is admissible in court, but I wanted to make sure that everybody who could see this would know how dangerous people, not just Jodi, but people like this are. And I can't believe she abused a child. I mean, I can't believe it from her, but I can't believe that a person in her position was so incredibly abusive to such an innocent demographic. It's unbelievable.